Hello builders, long time no see. It's great to be back on YouTube. I know I've been away for a while, and that's because I had some restructuring to handle within the businesses regarding client onboarding and also team member onboarding. And now that's out of the way, I have prepared a very special video for you today that you guys were requesting a lot. And that is the build of a personal AI agent with connection to the WhatsApp API, which honestly, I have not seen many videos around in YouTube explaining what I'm going to explain in today's video. So no more fuzz, let's get straight to it. All right, so today, as mentioned before, we're going to create a WhatsApp personal agent. We're going to build this inside n8n, a tool that you probably saw on my previous video. Let's be a bit more descriptive with this personal AI agent. What is it going to be able to do? Well, it's going to have access to tools, email tools, Google Calendar tools. You can count a vector store to be a tool as well, because it's going to use it to retrieve templates and contact information, which I'll show you how to do now. And also access to search engine result pages. So it's able to, search anything that you ask it to search for. And aside from the tooling, we're also going to explore chat memory and how that works in n8n. And finally, which is what most of you guys are here for, is for the WhatsApp integration. And we're going to go through 3 types of modes through which we can send information from the WhatsApp, right, as a user, through the API and to the agent. And that's going to be audio, text, and images. We're going to leave video out of the scope because we have to do some extra stuff that I could possibly explain in another video so that this video doesn't get too long. All right, so let's go ahead and go through a demo. All right, so we are here in n8n, and you can see the entire workflow. We can divide this entire workflow into different sections. So we're going to go into the first section, which is going to be getting the message. So the user will send a message to a designated phone number in the WhatsApp application, and then we're going to grab that message and trigger the workflow, and then decide if the message is an audio message, an image message, or a text message. And if it's the 2 above, then we are going to grab the URLs from the WhatsApp servers and download them. Okay, download the audio or the image. And we are going to process them into text so that then the agent can understand the query. If it's just text, then we are going to summarize it so that it's more concise for the agent to do tasks on. And then on the agent side of things, we can trigger some tools, as I mentioned before, calendar tools, email tools, and also search engine result page tool. And once the agent has the query, then it can perform certain things. So it can get and create calendar events, receive and create emails, and also access the internet via the SERP API, which is there. And another tool that it has is the vector store tool. And the reason this is here is to retrieve relevant information that it will need to do any of the actions here, specifically the calendar and the email tasks. And the reason this is because if I say to the agent, send an email to Emily, the agent without the vector store tool or any sort of reference is not going to understand what email is associated to Emily, right? So by uploading some files with information about each contact, then if I say Emily, it's going to know what email to pick and also what kind of email to send as well, if you add it on the document. So that's that. And then we have the chat model, obviously, because if you don't have the chat model, then this is just an empty skeleton or blueprint, right? We need the language model to power it. And then we have the memory. And this is just to store previous interactions with the user. And I'll explain a bit more about chat memory later on in the video. And then once the task is done, or the tasks are done, we are going to send a reply to the user on the WhatsApp API. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Now we're going to go through a live demo. So right here. Okay, so I opened WhatsApp on my laptop, and I also have it here in order to send audios a bit more comfortably and also send images as well. So we're going to try all of them. Okay, so let's trigger this workflow here. Let me zoom in a bit better, like that. Okay, let's test it. I'm going to start with an audio, with a couple audios. What events do I have tomorrow? List me all of them, please. Oh. Well, WhatsApp crashed. Let's try again. Right, okay. You can see here. This triggered the workflow. It's going through the audio route. Now the agent is doing the necessary tasks. Preparing an answer back. You see it triggered the get calendar events tool. And it should reply soon. Okay, let's have a look. Here's your schedule for tomorrow. Let's read more. And yeah, all of the events are there. Pretty cool. Right, let's trigger that again. And let's try asking it another question. Please show me an email. Please show me the email that I received this morning. Okay. Let's do it again. Now I should trigger the get calendar events, or actually, sorry, receive multiple emails. And then I get an answer back. Yes, that is correct. And now I'm going to ask it a bit more of a complicated query, okay? This query is going to have multiple actions inside it. Schedule a Google Meet for tomorrow. Oh, not recording. Schedule a Google Meet for tomorrow at 6 p.m. with Sarah Thompson, and also send an email to David and let him know that he has to onboard a new real estate client next week, and that the details are in the team folder in the Google Drive. So the audio got sent. Message went through. That's searching through the vector store. It needs to collect some contact information. Then it creates calendar events and so on. And let's see what it retrieved back. So I have scheduled a Google Meet for tomorrow at 6 p.m. Let's see if that's true. There we go. The meeting with Sarah Thompson is there. The email is correct as well. The email has been sent to David as well. David has one of my personal emails attached. So if you go ahead and check this email. Hi, David. You have to onboard a new real estate client next week. The details are in the team folder in the Google Drive. Best regards, Frank. So that works perfectly. All right, so now we're going to test the image capabilities. And in order to do so, I have to send an image. So I'm gonna go ahead and make an image, make a picture of one of my pens. So before I do, I'm going to test the workflow again, and then I can send that image. All right, so it executes a workflow, it goes through, explains the image and so on. Let's see what we get back. I understand the image shows a detailed view of a technical pen, possibly used for drafting or technical drawing, and so on and so on. What would you like me to do next with this information? Cool. Now let's try with something else. Let's test the workflow. And let me grab my phone again. And I'm going to do a picture of the table with some things on the table. Cool. I'm going to send that. There's a notebook and there's a mouse. Let's see how well it does. This is also slightly dependent on the prompt. So this could vary depending on the prompt. Understand the description of the image you shared. It's an open spiral bound notebook next to a black computer mouse with part of a keyboard visible. What? How does it know that's a keyboard? That's impressive. Well, yeah, you got me there on that one. I don't know how I figured that out. But yeah, you can see that it works. Okay, so let's go back to n8n. And I just want to briefly explain to you that the reason I was hitting test workflow here in order to send a message on WhatsApp and doing all this manually was for you to see how the workflow is triggered and how the workflow goes through live, and how, depending if it's an audio or an image, it selects the top route or the middle route. But most importantly, I wanted you to have a glimpse on the agent side of things and how it triggers the different tools, how it obviously leverages the language model, as you can see with the ticks, right? You can see with the ticks what is being used, and also then next to the tick there's a number, how many times it's using that tool or that node. And yeah, for you to see how it works live. Just wanted to show you that. But if you're happy with this, you're happy and you robustly tested it. By the way, just remember that I'm still playing around with this and it's not a final product at all. This is just a small demonstration. But when you think that you build an agent that works reliably for your use case, then you can go ahead and select, you can toggle this to active. You'll get a little notification. And then once you do that, then you don't need to do what I've done before, which is, press test workflow all the time and so on. All right, so let's ask it something else, knowing that this is active and I'm not hitting test workflow. Schedule a meeting with David Lee at 9:30 p.m. tomorrow. So let's have a look. There you go. So that's there. And I can view the event here. So if I click this, it should take me to the event, which is shown there, right? Cool. Now I will ask a general question so that we can use the SERP API, which I forgot to show you guys. So I'm gonna go and ask a question that requires the agent to search online. So the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight. Who won and when did it happen? By the way, the fight was crap. I did not watch it. but yeah, I know that it happened. So there you go. Happened in November 15th, 2024 at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Jake Paul won the fight via unanimous decision. Amazing. So that's a quick and effective result of a query that I asked the agent to do. So that's great. You can imagine maybe you are running or you're walking and maybe you don't want to text, and you can just quickly whip out WhatsApp, which anyways you possibly use a lot every day, and just send an audio and you can get stuff done. Of course, the stuff you see here and the formatting and the actions that the agent takes, this is all very dependent on the prompt. The prompt has to be very good regarding the tasks that it has to do and also the formatting of the replies and so on. But as long as you are aware of that, then you can build something that is pretty robust. Because as I mentioned before, I'm just trying this out, but hopefully in later videos, I will refine this agent a bit further, because at the moment it's a very simple one. And the thing is that you can add many other things as well, and you can structure this in many different styles, which I'll explain later in this video. Cool. So now let's get to the build. Before moving on with the n8n build, I believe it's important for you to understand how the WhatsApp API works and what information, what data do you need to collect from your Meta account in order to connect the AI agent to the WhatsApp platform. So first of all, let's understand a bit more about the architecture, at least in this scenario, how n8n connects to WhatsApp. So whenever I send a message to the WhatsApp platform to a designated phone number, which is associated to a Meta app that I make, that message, when it gets sent to that phone number, it's going to get grabbed, sent to the Meta server, and now the Meta server needs to decide where to send this to. Well, a webhook address is provided, a webhook address to your n8n server is provided, and that's where the message is going to go through. And once the n8n server has your message, then it would choose the associated workflow where the WhatsApp trigger is. Then the workflow does its thing, the message gets sent to the general server and then back to the Meta server. And then the Meta server has a business account associated, which normally is the same one, and then that message gets sent out, and then you receive the message. So that's how it works in a nutshell. I didn't want it to get too complicated. And now let's go to understanding this part, how the Meta server sends webhooks with the n8n server. So there's 4 things that you need to be aware of, that you need to collect. So the app ID, the app secret, then we have the access token, and then the business account ID. And regarding these, the app ID and app secret are used to authenticate your app with Meta, and this is required for the webhooks that I explained before. The access token enables you to send messages via n8n's WhatsApp node. And then the business account ID, that links your WhatsApp business account, which is needed for sending and receiving messages. The business account ID is linked to the business account, which is then associated to a phone number, okay? One business account can be linked to multiple phone numbers, just for you to understand. And regarding the phone numbers, per app, okay, you have the test number, the test phone number, which is used to simulate messaging without having real users. And then you have the production phone number. And this is when you set the app from development, which is how it is by default, to live. And once again, you can only have one test number and one production number per app. Regarding the access tokens, remember that you must be verified. You must have your business verified by Meta in order to obtain at least the permanent access token, okay? And for you to grab the permanent access token, you have to do the following, which I'll show you how to do after we've created our app. Because in order to create a permanent access token, you need to refer it to an app in Meta for developers. Just for you to understand, this is within the Meta Business Suite, and this is a different login that you have to go in compared to the Meta for developers, which is where you create the app and then you set up all the configurations to communicate between n8n and WhatsApp. So I'll park this one because first of all, you have to create the app ID and the app secret. So let's go ahead and find where that is. So you're gonna go to developers.meta.com, click the WhatsApp icon if you want. Most importantly, you need to go to your app dashboard. And once you're here, go ahead and create your app or select one if you have already. And this is pretty straightforward. All you have to do is go to app settings and then basic. This is where you will find your app ID and your app secret. So you're going to grab that and store it somewhere safe because you are going to use that later on. One thing that I want to point out is if you want to switch from development to live, as I mentioned before, you need to add a privacy policy URL from your business website and also add an app icon. I don't know if this is needed or not, but when you hit save changes, it should let you know. If it didn't complete the changes, then it means that this is needed, but it will give you a message anyways. So once you have the app ID and an app secret, you're good to go. Then you can go ahead and get the permanent access token. So how do you do that? Well, you're gonna go to the Meta Business Suite. Let's see if I find it. So here we are. This is the Meta Business Suite. The thing is that I had multiple tabs with the same icon, so I got a bit lost. But yeah, this is the Meta for Business Suite, which is different to the Meta for Developers site. Okay, there are two different sites. And once you're here, then make sure you select the business portfolio that you have your phone numbers associated to, the phone numbers that you want to use to communicate with the agent. And if that's the case, then, and you're sure that that's the case, then you go to system users, and then you are going to either create a new system user or select one. Make sure if you create a new one, it's good to set it on the admin role, because you would have control with everything and there will be less frictions whenever you have to authenticate stuff. And once you're inside here, then first of all, make sure you have created your app, because the token will be associated to that app. So generate the token, which app, Frank2 in this case, token expiry, let's hit never, and then you assign permissions. This is really important. So let's hit the 2 WhatsApp permissions, and then let's hit the general business management permission. And then you're gonna go ahead and generate the token. I'm not gonna do it because I've already done it, but that's your permanent access token, and you're going to keep that in addition to the app ID and the app secret. Regarding the business ID, which is what's missing, you're going to go back to Meta for Developers, and you can go to WhatsApp. One other thing that I forgot is that when you create your app, make sure you subscribe to the WhatsApp service and webhook service. Those are the 2 important ones. But once you do, then you should be able to see the WhatsApp section here. Go ahead and hit API setup. And this is a quick way for you to grab the business account ID here, okay? So here it is, business account ID. Let me zoom in. That's the one that you have to add next to the permanent access token. So that's for sending the message back to WhatsApp, and then the app ID and app secret are for receiving those messages. You might want to grab the phone ID as well. So the phone ID is different for each, and you can specify what phone number ID you are sending the message with at the end of the n8n node, right? The last node that sends those messages. And that's it. Basically, you should have all of the 4, you call it pieces of data or credentials. Now let's go into the n8n workflow and talk about specifics. Okay, well, let's go back to the n8n editor, and we are going to go through this from step 1. And remember that I will leave this template on the description below, so go ahead and download it there. And if you want to build it from scratch, go ahead and build it from scratch as well. I will be going through the nodes that you need to add as well. So this first module or node is WhatsApp trigger node. So you go ahead, add a node to WhatsApp Business Cloud, and then under triggers, select on messages. I already have one, so I don't need to add a second one, and I think you're not allowed either anyways. So on the first one, you can see that I added some credentials. Over here, you see the webhook URLs. This is a separate method. So remember that I was talking to you about the webhook URLs and the fact that you need to establish a connection with the webhooks. This is one way of doing it. You can do this manually, and you can trigger webhook addresses and webhook calls. But what usually happens is that because you are adding the client ID and the client secret over here, n8n should set up the webhook addresses automatically and establish the connection for messaging automatically. But if you see there's an error for some reason by adding the client ID and client secret don't work, then of course go ahead and use the webhook, the manual method for doing this, and you will be able to find more information about that either in the n8n documentation or on the Meta for Developers documentation. But as I said before, client ID and client secret, I explained that in the presentation, and the trigger is on messages. Great. So we can go ahead and test that. Make sure that the client ID and the client secret are from the app that you have your test phone number associated with, okay? So once you create an app, you should already have assigned a test number, but nevertheless, you need to know which test number this is. So if you go back on here and you go on WhatsApp API setup on your app, you can see that you can select from, and there should be a test number. This is because I added this number manually obviously for business purposes, for production purposes, but you should have this one as default. Not obviously not my test number, but a general test number with the US, the United States code. So this is the number that you're going to send messages to trigger the app. So make sure you know that phone number. Okay, once you have that, then you're going to pull out WhatsApp and hit test step. It's going to listen for any messages happening on WhatsApp. So now I can say, hello, I am Frank, the YouTube guy, just to differentiate it from the one on top. Right, so I send that, and now you can see that we receive something. So that's good. We receive a couple things, so let's put it like this. We receive information such as the phone number ID, the name, the WhatsApp ID, which is the phone number, and the message ID, for example, and a timestamp. And you can also see the actual message. Hello, I am Frank, the YouTube guy. So that's great. Now what we're going to do is go on to the next node. So in this second node, what we're doing is splitting out the message and extracting only the messages object here, right? As you can see. Why are we doing this? So maybe you don't have anything here, you just have to test step. And the reason we are extracting that is because over here we have the property type or the object type. And this is going to tell us if the message is text, audio, or an image. And that's what we want for the next step, which is the switch step. Hold on, let me tell you which node is this. So this is called the split out node, and this is called the switch node. And they all have their own descriptions, so you can see. But what essentially this does is checks this body here and checks if JSON.type. In this case, it's JSON, not the module name, because anything that mentions JSON is specifically relating to the node result from this previous node. So only this will be named JSON, right? It will be named with JSON dot whatever. If you want to refer back to this one, for example, you need to do something slightly different. You need to mention it as follows. So let's say, let me remove this for a sec, and you want to refer to the WhatsApp trigger. So you need to write it in a different way, right? It's not JSON dot anymore. You're calling the actual name. So the name of the node. So WhatsApp trigger 1, WhatsApp trigger 1, and it goes around these characters here. So you do this when you want to refer on a node that's not behind you, is several steps behind you, okay? So let me put that back as it was. And essentially what we're doing here is, well, okay, if JSON.type, which is this, is equal to audio, video, well, I said video, but we're not doing it this time, audio, image, or text, then you're going to be routed in either of these three paths. The reason text is not stated as follows is because the text is the fallback output. So whatever is not represented or whatever is not identified as an audio or an image, it gets sent as text automatically. So let's say for some reason somebody tampers with this and they're able to put car, right? Which does not make any sense. Well, it would still go to this fallback output, which is text. So that's a safe way of always determining an output to it so that it doesn't retrieve an error. So on this top one, what we're doing is, if you go on the node and then we go WhatsApp Business Cloud, what are we getting? We are downloading media, okay? So that's what we're doing. Right, so let me delete that. And now you're putting a different credential to the one at the start. And this credential is the access token, the personal access token, or the temporary access token, depending on what you want to, depending on which one you want to use. Obviously, I recommend the personal access token, but whichever token you want to use, you add it there, and then the business account ID, which is associated to your phone number, to the test phone number. So you're going to add that credential. Resource is going to be media, and then you're going to download. And what are you going to download? Well, let's do this again, but with an audio, so that it just makes more sense at the start. Because I think I just had text there. So let's actually send an audio file. So let's hit test workflow. Hi, can you retrieve the latest emails from today, for example? There we have it. Now we're going to do the same here. So let's test the step, pass it forward. And now you see how the type is audio. Sure, the messages inside audio don't matter. just check that the type is audio. So then we're going to route this one. And now you see how this is highlighted because it knows it has to take this path. It understood that one of these criteria is turning out to be true, which is the type equals audio is true, this one over here. So therefore we're going up here and now we are getting the audio URL. So let's go ahead and click there. Let's test the step. And we managed to grab the URL. Well, we managed to discover the URL where we managed to find out the URL where the audio is located, because this audio is stored in one of Facebook's or Meta's servers. So we need that URL, locate where the actual file is, the audio file, and then download it. And you see here, it's grabbing the ID, and then from the ID, we're able to discover the URL. Cool, so that's done. Now we're going to the next one, which is a simple HTTP request. So node, HTTP request, right? This is a very versatile node because you can add so many different kinds of requests. But anyways, we're going to download the audio. We're going to get json.url, of course. And then here are the settings. I usually leave them like this. So set the credential type to WhatsApp API and then add the same things here, access token and business account ID. Cool. So if we test that step, we're going to see that we are extracting, well, we're downloading that from the URL and this is in binary, right? This is binary representation of the data and you can even listen to it here. I can't hear it right now because I have the mics connected, but you can see that the audio is there. Right, back to the list and you can download if you want, but there's no point. And the cool thing about n8n is that you can switch into other different types of data format, depending on what you prefer to see it like. But anyways, so now we're going to transcribe the recording. We're going to use a module from OpenAI, and we're going to go to transcribe a recording here. Cool. And what do we need from this? Well, we need this in binary format. By default, it should download it already as binary format, but in the case that you select the data type here, binary, and then you don't see anything here, well, that means that there's something wrong with the audio being downloaded as binary, but it shouldn't be a problem. So in this audio transcriber, you're gonna add your credentials. I think by this point, you know how to do that. The resource is gonna be audio, transcribe, and then you're gonna add data there, because data is the name of the file that we have downloaded. Right. Well, it's not the name of the file, but it's the name of the object here in n8n and how we can refer to it. So we're going to test the step, and now OpenAI is going to retrieve us a transcription. Cool. Well, now that we have the text, we can go ahead and send that to the agent. So this is just setting the user message. Right? We have this text, but we have to ensure that we have to set some variables so that everything is a bit more clear. What do I mean by everything more clear? Well, we want to understand the message type, we want to understand the text, the string, what number it came from, and the caption. And the caption is specifically useful for images. So if it comes from an image, we need to let the agent know that this is a caption. So for example, if I make a picture of whatever, and then I send that to the agent, once it gets turned into text, we need to let the agent know that what the actual text, the description of an image is the description of an image, not something that I said, right? It's two different things. One thing is me sending an audio saying, hey, retrieve me this, or send a calendar. And one other thing is just sending an image straight away. And we need to make a difference between them two. And this is what we are doing here with the message caption. Cool. So we're going to test that step. This happened. There's no output because all you're doing is just setting variables. So we run that and we don't see anything here because we're just setting some variables. Okay. And that's under the, let me see, edit field to set variables. Unfortunately, that's how far we can get within this flow by just testing like that. And now in order to test the agent, we're gonna have to run the workflow every time with WhatsApp. So you can go ahead and do that, or otherwise you can also do the following. So what you can do is grab this section, and you're going to copy it into a new workflow. You're going to create a new workflow with that same, with the same setup for the agent, and then remove the WhatsApp stuff. And if you remove all the WhatsApp stuff, then you can go ahead and add this trigger, which then allows you to be able to test the agent without having to text through WhatsApp. And when you add this trigger, which I'm going to show you is the add node, add another trigger when chat, well, I added it already, right? But once you do that, then you're going to be able to see, you should see this chat icon here, and you should be able to chat with it. And this is a way to bypass the need of having to text through WhatsApp every time you want to test the agent. Okay, so that's a little trick that you can do for testing the agent by itself. Right, but anyways, I'm going to use WhatsApp because I already have it all set up and I know it works decently. But we're going to go ahead and look into the agent node. So we're picking here the tools agent. There's other types of agents, which is exciting to see. I'm really interested about the React agent and the SQL agent and the plan and execute agent. They seem very interesting. So if you want me to make a video of them for them separately, possibly exploring how these work, then let me know down in the comments below. But we're going to define the prompt below, and this is the prompt that I added. So the user send the following message. So we first start with a message type and then the actual message or description. And it's written like this, so the agent understands if there's an image description or there's just a query sent by the user, right? As I said before, we want to make that difference. And then the system message. This is where you're going to have to do most of the refining. So I add a standard structure. So role, primary tasks, retrieve. The first one is retrieve calendar events, then create calendar events, retrieve emails, send emails. Then we say the tool usage, right? A full list of tools that you can use, any ambiguities and examples, right? We're doing few shot prompting inside with the agent. And then a few notes at the end. This is where you would add any notes or any other considerations once you test the agent and you see that the agent doesn't perform certain tasks. That's where you add the notes at the end so that you remember it. This is because of the effect on prompts of lost in the middle. So the lost in the middle effect happens when you add a lot of content in the prompt. It gets very long. And what tends to happen is that it tends to forget the parts of the prompt in the middle. So that's why we add the final notes, because in this section of the prompt is going to forget less things. And the reason my prompt, well, you would think, well, Frank, why did you make your prompt long anyways? Well, to be honest, I didn't spend much time refining it. The way I usually do it is by first setting an entire structure and then refining and making the prompt concise as I go with the testing. But as you can see, I didn't get to refine it a lot. It's just at the start of it. But yeah, in later videos, if I make videos about n8n, you should see that this prompt is going to become smaller and more concise. But over here, I'm adding events, examples for event retrieval, and emails as well. And I also add today's date, because it's important to know today's date if you tell the agent to retrieve events yesterday or to send an email 2 days before, or what are my events for the day after tomorrow, right? It needs to do that with reference to today's date. So you need to give it a date. And on the right here, you can see the result of the prompt, which is pretty cool. I mean, you can see the year and the date and the time, right? What the variable value holds. So that's pretty cool. And as you can see as well, it's written in Markdown. The reason I'm doing this is just to keep everything structured so that the agent then can, with the hopes that the agent or actually, let's say the language model reads the headers and it can figure out the hierarchy of the prompt, right? So this is a header 1, header 2, or a subheader, and then add in bold whenever there's smaller subtitles, if you want to call it that way, or you want to emphasize something specific. Well, now that you saw the prompt, that's a system message, and the text is the actual message received on WhatsApp. So you've seen the prompting and the type of agent to use. In this case, it's the tools agent. Now you're going to go ahead and select the language model of your choice to power your agentic framework. And then you're going to choose the chat memory. There's two different types of chat memory that are popular within n8n. The first one is the window buffer memory. And the second one is the one that I have here, the Postgres chat memory. And we're just going to do a quick comparison between the both. First of all, why do we need chat memory? Well, we need chat memory for the agent to have a little bit of context on the maybe past 3 chats, right? The 3 messages or the past 3, 10, 15 messages that you've had with it, so that it understands what you're trying to do on your next query, for example. Let's say you talk about your cat and your cat is called Michael, and then you say, well, I want to send a picture of my cat. Well, it might need to know the name of the cat. And if you don't store the memory somewhere, the agent is not going to, or the language model is not going to understand, is not going to know the name of the cat unless you specify it in the query. So that's why it's important to have chat memory. And regarding the types of chat memory, we have the window buffer, and this one means that n8n stores temporary memory of the conversation. So there's an issue with this. The issue with this is that if you open a new session, or let's put it another way, you refresh the site, the n8n cloud app, you refresh it, right? You go ahead and refresh this right now, and then you try to build on a conversation you previously had, it's not going to remember. The memory is going to be wiped. But if you have a Postgres chat memory, what we're doing here is that we are sending the conversations and storing them on an external database. In this case, it's a Postgres database. Postgres is a dialect of SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it's a language that you use to query databases, structured databases. And in this case, I'm using Supabase. I'm using Supabase to store 2 things. I'm using Supabase to store the conversations that I've had with the AI, both from the AI side and also from the human side, so in this case, me talking, and also the documentation. And this is not a Postgres database. This is slightly different. We have added some code on the SQL editor to store the information that I uploaded in this table as vectors. So this essentially is a vector store inside Supabase. Okay, in this case, I don't want to get too deep into it because then this video could get very long. So in this case, I'm going to leave window buffer memory there. And if you click on it, then the session ID has to be something unique from the session or the conversation, or kind of the interaction with the agent. And what I usually tend to pick in this case is the WhatsApp phone number, because the WhatsApp phone number is unique to every conversation, right? You can't have 2 conversations with 2 different people with the same phone number, unless they're both using the same phone, but that beats the example, right? And then you have the context window length. I usually tend to pick 15, so you can go ahead and leave it like that. Go ahead and save if you want. I'll explain this in another video, so that this video doesn't become too long. But yeah, you can leave it as window buffer to just have temporary conversations with it. And yeah, if you want to test it, go ahead and test it using WhatsApp, or you can go ahead and grab this part of the assistant, right? Only the agent part of the assistant, not the WhatsApp part, and put it in a new scenario. This is what I like to do when I'm testing. Because if I test it using this way, then that means I have to trigger the workflow and then have to chat through WhatsApp. And if I do it like this, then I can test things much quicker. But anyways, leave it as window buffer memory. And as I said, well, let's actually trigger this so that I can tell you what I mean. So let's go to WhatsApp Business. Let's go to test number, and let's send something, just something random. So I'll just send it a text. Hello, just simple hello. I just want it to run so that we have all the variables. So now when you click buffer memory and you hit on mapping, you should be able to pick anything from the previous nodes. You can go ahead and click on WhatsApp ID, anything that has the phone number. So you can go ahead and define below and then choose that as the key. And in that way, every conversation with every phone number is going to be defined by the key, and it just keeps everything clean. Right. So There we go. So that's that. You leave it as buffer memory. I'm going to put it back as it is with a Postgres chat memory. I'll explain this in one of the next videos. But anyways, I want to go through the tools. So the get calendar events tool. So this one, you would go to Google Calendar. And you go ahead and get a calendar event. So it should be here. No, actually it's this one here. So get an event. Okay, make sure to set up your credentials with Google Calendar. It might be that you need to get into Google Cloud. So let me show you really quickly where that is. So Google Cloud, and then set up a project. And when you create the project, then you need to create some credentials. Okay, you need to create some credentials, and once you created the credentials, you also need to enable some services, and the services are going to be, well, anything that you're going to use within the Google space. In this case, it's going to be Google Calendar and also Google Mail, right, or Gmail. So let's go here and let's look for Google Calendar, the Google Calendar API. So that's the one. You go ahead and enable that. I already enabled it in this project, and then you also want to enable what was the other one? So Gmail, the Gmail API. Okay, and once you've validated all that, then it should all be fine. And then the only thing you need to do is connect to the app and then sign in with Google as well. So I might have dumbed down the process a lot. So if you want any further guidance, just go ahead and check the n8n documentation. But once you've gone through that, then I'll delete this. You can go here and you're gonna get many or get one, depending on if you want to just return one from my email. And then the good thing about this, about n8n, is that they added this new feature actually not long ago, I think a month ago or something like that, where the AI is able to determine what to add in these based on the query. So that's pretty smart. And within this parameter, you can specify what the agent or the language model sees as an input to add. So now it knows that this input is called limit, but you can also add further description. So what does limit mean, right? In this case, it would be the amount of emails, the max amount of emails. You get the idea, right? To retrieve. And then the other parameter is type. So whether the AI agent should add a string or a Boolean, right? A Boolean is another type of data input. But yeah, you get the idea. You can even leave it like that if you don't want to add. Not all of them are mandatory to add. But you get the idea. If you want to have a better understanding, just go to the n8n website. They should have a really good description. Even this is pretty good. But yeah, this is amazing. The AI can fill it by itself. So that's that, and then create the calendar events. Pretty much the same thing. So you do the credential. You set up the credentials, which is probably the hardest part. And then I added some description. So I want to create a calendar event with a start date and an end date. And then I'd put a little bit of a description in what format does it have to be, because if it's the wrong format, then you might get an error. And then I added additional fields for the attendees, description, and a summary as well. So the AI will be able to fill all of that. Then for this one, it's going to be retrieve multiple emails. So this is, sorry, I said before get many emails, I meant events. This is the emails one. So I also set it to do get many. Once again, this would be the same credentials as previously, right? On these ones, same credentials to add. In this case, we are receiving, messages, and we're getting many. And beware with the get many operation, because what has happened to me, I'm still working around it, is that if you ask it to retrieve any amount of emails, it might retrieve 5, 6, 7 or more, depending on your email inbox, and it might not fit the context window. So when this gets triggered, what happens is all of the email information that comes with triggering this tool gets sent as part of the language model prompt. And the problem with that is that obviously the prompts have a limit. So what I put here is a limit of max of 3. Only retrieve me a maximum of 3 emails. So there's a way of doing this, which is triggering a separate workflow. So if you go and make this tool as a separate workflow, so let's say I add a node, and then I want to add a workflow. So I can call a workflow. This is what n8n have done, is that as an agent tool, they added this call n8n workflow tool. So what this does is, once you've added the description of the tool and so on, then you can call a separate workflow. And this is where I would add the logic to handle multiple emails. So what I would do is grab all those emails and then summarize it so that it fits within the context window. So that's the problem with that. So that's why I have it like this now. Possibly in further videos, I'll create other workflows that then are triggered by the agent. So that's that. Let's see. I also selected only unread emails, and then trying to be a bit more specific with the kind of the time window from which emails are going to be received. And then the create and approve email. This one, there's no problems. It's only with the receiving emails part, as I said, with the max of 3 emails. But in this case, pretty straightforward. Message, operation send, to subject, email type text, and then the actual message. And one thing that I didn't realize, that we're really cheeky with this at n8n, is that if you remove that and you try to send an email, then it's going to say on the bottom, generated with automatically with n8n. And I suppose that you don't want that if you're sending that to a real person. So what you have to do here under options is go ahead and select the append n8n attribution and then deselect that. That's how you get that's how you work around that. Great. And then what you have here is the SERP API. So this is very simple. I just need to add credentials. In this case, it's only an API key. And you find that by creating an account on SERP API. By the way, it's all free. There's a limit, of course, and of 100 searches, and then they force you to get on the paid plan, which is pretty much every freemium business model for software out there. But yeah, you can go ahead and try it, as you saw before. And that's it. Then you have the vector store tool. Once again, I don't want to make it too long, but this is related. You see here, this icon, this belongs to Supabase. So this vector store tool, or this vector store, is set up on Supabase. In the same way, the Postgres chat memory as well is set up in the same Supabase project. But in later videos, if you want to see how this works, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll make a video about it. Right, so that's that. And obviously, once you set all the tools and all the chat memory and so on, then you can send a message back to the user. So this would be a WhatsApp Business Cloud and send message. So that's the one, and you just connect it there. And then if everything is correct, then you should be able to test the workflow and then chat to it. Hi, can you retrieve me an email from yesterday? I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Language model, receive multiple emails, Postgres chat memory as well, and then respond to the user. And then here's an email that I received yesterday, right? So it works. Great. The reason I skipped through the chat memory and the vector store tool is because I wanted to focus on the WhatsApp API part of it, on how you connect this agent to the WhatsApp API, right? So for this case, once again, you need the access token and the business account ID, as mentioned before. So in the presentation, I already explained that, so you should know how to do that. And so the sender phone number or ID should be the test number. But here I have FG Labs, so you should once you put in the access token and business account ID and then you verify, you should have the sender phone number here as a test number. So yeah, as you see, there's a lot of caveats to the WhatsApp API. Hopefully I explained this properly and there's no further doubts. The message type is text in this case. We just want to send text back. But understand that you can also send audio. images, locations, and so on. So this is what I like about the WhatsApp API, is that it gives you so many different options. But for now, it's just text. And you're gonna get the recipient's phone number, obviously from the WhatsApp trigger at the start. And then the text body is a result of the agent. So what's happening here? So you can just grab it and add it there, right? There you go. And if that went well, then you should see an output popping out of here. And something else that I wanted to mention is regarding the vector store tool is, why am I storing the vector store, the information on a vector store tool versus me storing it on a Google Sheet? So the difference is that if you store this information, the contact information connected to emails and so on, in a Google Sheet, for example, you have a name. Let's say you have a name and then you have an email associated to it. Well, the difference, the thing with that is that it's structured data. It's not stored as vectors, and the problem with that is if I make a typo on the query to the assistant, or if through the audio it says something, it says a different name, a slightly different name than Emily or Frank, right? Imagine that instead of saying Michael, I say Mike. Well, if the agent is going to try to search through the Google Sheet, it's not going to work because they're not the same. Versus if you have a vector store tool, then it's going to be able to capture the similarities between Mike and Michael, and then it's going to understand, if trained properly, it's going to understand, okay, well, these two are the same thing, and I'm going to therefore retrieve, if he said Mike, but if he said Mike instead of Michael, well, I think Mike is related to Michael, so I'm going to search on the row that says Michael, and then I'm going to retrieve that email. So that's the advantage of vector store tool. Essentially, it's for queries that don't specify the exact words regarding anything that you want to search for in a database or in some form of data that you want to search through. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something out of it. If you enjoyed the video indeed, then give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, let me know why in the comments below. Any feedback is good feedback. So we went through the n8n agent, and most importantly, how to connect the n8n agent to the WhatsApp API, which is what most of you were asking me for the next video, which is this one. So hopefully that fulfilled your requests. And if there's any other thing that you want me to do for future videos, including the chat memory, exploring the Postgres chat memory setup, and also the vector store setup on Supabase, let me know in the comments as well. Perfect. I'm gonna go grab some food because I'm a bit hungry, and I'll see you in the next one.